And good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third and last day of the series, Beyond the Numbers, Understanding Numerical Data as a Prerequisite to Authentic Learning, with the topic, Collecting Data Using Appropriate Instruments, Presenting and Interpreting Data in Tabular or Graphical Forms, and Using Statistical Techniques to Analyze the Data. I am Don Enrique Moreno, the Program Coordinator of the BS Entrepreneurship and BSBA program at Malayan Colleges Laguna, and I will be your moderator for tonight. And to officially and formally start the program, let us start with a prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, the fount of all goodness and grace, the cause of wisdom, the source of intelligence, we welcome you, O Lord, to this auspicious gathering of your beloved, who continuously give you thanks for every opportunity to learn something new and become fruitful to the works of your creation. We humbly come to you, not because we are worthy, but because we find ourselves in need of you, who is our strength and our hope, to continue despite the challenges we face in health, prosperity, and our solidarity with one another. We pray that today's gathering, made possible by the grace of advancements in technology and social media, become successful in its endeavors, so we can offer it back to you as our humble offering to honor you, glorify you, and love you through our deeper connection with everyone. May we find bliss in today's session and become more productive children and co-creators of the earth. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
For our house rules, may I remind everyone to observe proper network etiquette or netiquette during the program. Kindly mute your microphone by default, video on whenever able, use complete name in Zoom account, and include your school. Don't abuse the chat box for any questions, and practice kindness and respect. This event is an initiative of the EdCore Educational Research Center under its advocacy project Sagip Mananaliksik with DepEd Division Advisory Number 008 Series of 2021. Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone aims to help researchers, students, and professionals all over the country, especially during this time of pandemic. And the one-to-one program, the EdCore's research consultants and other research enthusiasts and benefactors are individually adopting one senior high school learner from our list of student beneficiaries. The beneficiary will receive free coaching and provision of financial aid to help them in their expenses related to research. With these projects, we would like to recognize the efforts of our respective coordinators, Dr. Bernadette L. Lejarde, the overall project coordinator, Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone, and Dr. Adrian Lawrence P. Carvajal, the overall project coordinator for Project Sagip Mananaliksik 1-to-1. Good evening, docs. And we would like to also to acknowledge the presence of our founder and head research consultant, Dr. Richard D. Sanchez. And to our national consultants, regional coordinators, provincial, divisional, city coordinators, and all EdCore research consultants who are present today, good evening, mayong gabi, and magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. And to give us our welcoming message for this webinar session this evening, may I introduce to you our colleague, an Assistant Professor 3 and Director in Planning and Development Office of Donn Honorio Ventura State University. May I turn over the virtual floor to Dr. Eddiebal P. Layco. So let's give him a warm virtual round of applause. Good evening, Doc.
Okay, good evening, Sir Donn Enrique. Hello. Sir, loud and clear ba ako? Hello.
Yes po, loud and clear.
So to our head research consultant, Dr. Richard Sanchez, to the speaker for this day webinar about data or quantitative research, we have po Sir Donn Uriel D. Buenaventura, to my co-members of this group for this session, and also to all of the participants for this event. Pleasant evening to everyone. So as educators, we are constantly searching for articles, books, or advice on how to make learning stick with our students. In our classrooms, we want engaged learners who retain what they have learned and apply it in their lives for years to come. But how do we actually make this happen? What can we do to ensure our students are getting the most out of every moment during school? There is definitely one surefire way to do this and goes by name of authentic learning. So not certain what actually means in education, authentic learning is an instructional approach that allows students to explore, discuss, and meaningfully construct concepts and relationships in context and that involve real-world problems and projects that are relevant to the learner. Authentic learning in research focus on diverse topics and applied multiple perspectives, including cognitive, affective, and sociocultural aspects. Authentic learning in research is applied when we have our conclusions, we have the analysis, and even the recommendations based on the numerical data. So numerical data is of paramount importance within the world of mathematics and even in statistics. At times are it often difficult to spot numerical data. We are getting to take a glance at the importance of numerical data analysis. This may assist us in improving our understanding for this sort of approach of this data. For this session, we will consider quantitative data and how do we understand it and how will we analyze it. Researchers provides a lot of importance to the present sort of information. The rationale is that it's compatible with the bulk of statistical techniques. Apart from this, it can help considerably facilitate the research process. So how is this quantitative analysis useful? In many companies, knowledge analysis is crucial importance in fostering much better understanding of organizational problems. Aside from this, it helps explore data in several ways. In the basic form, the data only refer to facts and figures. Once it's analyzed, it provides useful information for various applications. In research, we have quantitative data. For us to understand this quantitative data, we have this so-called statistics wherein what appropriate statistical techniques will be used. If we are testing for significant differences, are the data normally distributed? Are the data considered as homogeneous, heterogeneous? We also consider or we also represent data using textual, tabular, and graphical forms. Also, we need to consider also the relationships of data. So aside from looking for relationships, we also look for the cause and effect of the variables. So in this session, you will learn about collection of data using appropriate instruments, even the sample size or the sampling techniques used, how we will present data in tabular or graphical forms, what are the statisticals or appropriate statistical techniques used to analyze data. Test of differences and relationship will be also discussed, considering only the bivariate analysis. So without further ado, we welcome you for this event, which intends to give you information about quantitative data analysis, somehow what is beyond these numbers, or what are the meaning beyond these numbers, for us to form a theory, or for us to have information dissemination also, considering the results of the study. So welcome to our webinar about quantitative data analysis. Good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Layco. May I now bring back the screen first? All right. So again, thank you for the warm welcome message, Dr. Layco, and for the very informative and insightful quick introduction of the topic that we will be talking about later. All right. So allow me to proceed first by describing the webinar flow of our program tonight. After the lecture session, we will have a photo opportunity and proceed with the question and answer portion regarding the lecture, followed by the closing remarks. And for those consultants who will take their oath tonight, may I remind you po to stay after the closing remarks. And without further ado, may I now give the virtual floor to our speaker, Dr. Donn Buenaventura. He is the OIC Senior Education Program Specialist, Research and Planning of Division Office City of San Jose del Monte. Let's give him a virtual round of applause. Good evening, Dr. Donn.
Good evening, Sir Donn. So Tokayo. Good evening to everyone and good evening to all. So let's keep the ball rolling. I will share my screen, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. A while ago, Layco mentioned different characteristics of quantitative data, which is our main focus this evening, or actually the series of this session. And thank you very much to EdCore for giving me the opportunity to share, to share the knowledge that I gained and share to you. Now, from the big previous series, the different speakers shared to us the different nature of quantitative data, and then how to come up the problem logic or the rationale of the problem in order for us to craft statement of the problem or questions that we need to answer, and then review of related literature that will support our investigation. And this time, we move now on the design, on how to come up with the findings of our study or this technique. But before that, let me share to you this first activity. We will share this, and I know some of you will be familiar with this, but I hope they will cooperate and do this activity. So let's start. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So we have here 4 figures: triangle, square, circle, and squiggle. Now, I'm hoping that you have pen and paper with you. Please draw the following figures on your paper. So 1 triangle, 1 square, 1 circle, and 1 squiggle. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, I'm expecting that you're done. Among these 4 figures, please select one and draw it again. So choose either a triangle, a square, a circle, or a squiggle. Choose only one. Okay. So next, who among you, now this time, put on our chat pane, who among you drew a triangle and write number 1. So write number 1 on the chat pane for those who drew triangle. Okay, so we have 51 participants. So those who drew triangle, so we have Mutya, we have Ellen Grace, Angeline, then the Edcor, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 triangles. How about, and then another one, so 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Okay, last count, 7. Okay. Next, who drew a square? Right on our chat pane, number 2. Okay, put 2 on our chat pane. So we have Nathalie. Okay, Marichelle, I'll count you 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. So 5 2s in our square. How about on circle? Number 3. Write number 3 on our chat pane. So let's count, Marichelle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mark Lawrence, Bayani, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. So majority circles. Most of you drew. Let's have now squiggle. Sir Ulrich already mentioned. So write 4 for the squiggle lines or squiggle figure. So 2, Lani 3, 4, Chufista. Okay, there are 4. So it's okay. I believe we have enough samples for this activity. So let's try now to decipher the meaning of these figures. And later on, this will be related to our activity this evening. Now, next please. Those who answered triangle, your characteristic is why we are doing this, because in conducting our study, we need to familiarize ourselves with the context or the situation our respondents belongs to. For those triangles, those respondents who answered triangles, a leader, a person of action, decisive, assertive, ambitious, results-driven, charismatic, self-motivated. But your possible weakness is impatient, aggressive, and self-centered. Now, these are the people who always ask when, and then now na. And then your mantra is get it done, because you are a leader type person. And then motto, follow me. For the square, you are the optimist. You enjoy working in unison with others to get things done. Circle. Okay. Ambitious, results driven. The circle is enjoy working. So go back to square first. Yes, circle. And you are the optimist. You enjoy working in unison with others to get things done. Excellent communicator. So word smart, listener and problem solver, friendly, generous. But your possible weakness would be indecisive, moody, have a tendency to get personal, and you always ask the question, who? Your mantra, can't we get along? But your motto will be positive, and I help you do it. Next, please. How about those squiggle? There are 4 squiggles in this evening. Okay? Sorry, the square, those who answered square, the 4-sided, an organizer, an administrator who enjoys working with figures and data. So this evening is for you. Analytical and somewhat impatient, persevering, and generally neat. Your weakness would be procrastinator, perfectionist, aloof, meticulous, resistant to change, and you always ask the question, how? So mantra, get it right, even it takes all night. And then motto, give me a deadline and I'll get it done. While the last one, the last type of participant we have this evening is the squiggle. Those who are squiggly is creative and original and always considers the possibilities, thinks out of the box, likes to have fun, creative, imaginative, and future-oriented. But your possible weakness will be opposite of square, disorganized, impractical, unrealistic, illogical, eccentric, because you always keep on asking yourself or others question, why? What if? And your mantra is get it done differently, because your motto will be always be creative. Okay, thank you very much. Now, let me share to you. So based on the 53 respondents, stop presenting. Based on the 53 respondents, 7 responded they are triangle. 5 said they are square. And then 11 said they are circle. And then 4 mentioned they are squiggle. By using Microsoft Excel, you can create a pie graph there that's stating this evening 15% are squiggle persons, 26% are triangle, square belongs to 18% of the group, and then 41% or the big chunk of these respondents are circle. Why we made this activity? Because this will be the flow of our discussion this evening. We started collecting data on this simple survey about shapes that will represent your personality using Microsoft Excel to operate and to present your data. And then later on, what is our output? A chart or a graph representing the breakdown of the respondents. And later on, what's the meaning? And the meaning is already mentioned a while ago. What are the characteristics of a squiggle, triangle, square, circle, and so on. Primarily, because the flow of our discussion this evening is we will start with collecting data using appropriate, as what Dr. Layco mentioned, but we will have the nitty-gritty or the details later. Process it using appropriate statistical treatment. Later on, we will use Microsoft Excel. I will show you how to compute bivariate analysis of data using Excel and PSPP because that is free. And then report it or present it either through graph or tables depending upon the nature of the data. Because our main objectives this evening is from CPR, collect, process, and report, is to collect data using appropriate instruments. What are the different tools that we need to use that will help us to answer our research problem in response to our research design? Use statistical techniques to analyze data, but since we have limited time, we will focus on bivariate analysis or by two variables. And then how to present and interpret it in data or tabular forms. Now, let's go now to the details. Next, okay. Now, we will encounter the following words, and I will show you jumbled letters, and let's see who will be the first one to identify what is the word based on the given jumbled letters. Okay, ready? Let's have number 1. Pabilisan na lang. Sino po mauna? Number 1. What particular word you can form with these letters? Chat it or type it on our chat pane. Go. So, number 1, the first one is given by Annie Kitain. Thank you very much, Ma'am Evelyn. Nominal. So, good. Next. So, that's practice. Next, jumbled word. Okay, go type it on our chat pane. What is that word that has Lavinte? Anyone? So Sir Bayani, Ma'am Evelyn. Thank you very much, Ma'am Ellen Grace got it first. Interval. Thank you, Ma'am Ellen Grace, Ma'am Evelyn. Interval. Very good. Later on, we will discover why is it connected. Next. No R. Thank you very much, Sir Bayani. So there's a correction. Thank you, thank you. Kulang po R. Noted. Now, the next jumbled word is, what's that? Okay, Pearson. So, Edcor, Sir Suarez got it first, Sir Alexis. Okay, Pearson. Later on, we will meet Pearson R because it's a type of bivariate analysis. So, Mervin Florendo, Gonya, thank you, sir. Pearson. Last one. I believe this will be the last word, the second to the last one. Okay, what particular word we can form with this letter? Okay, the first one is Sir Alexis. Ma'am Evelyn got it also, Sir Bayani. Ordinal, correct. It's ordinal. Very good. And then the last one, last word that we will encounter is what? Ma'am Chofista, napakabilis. It's test. Why do we need to understand these words, mga kapatid? It's because we need first to understand the nature or the behavior of the quantitative data before we can collect it properly, because it is a pre-requirement to process it and to present it later. So the first thing that we need to understand is the nature of data itself, specifically in quantitative data. Next, please. So there are 4 types of data. According to Cristobal and Baraceros, there are only 4: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio data. Now, nominal data, from the word itself, nomi, number, nabibilang, are attributes that only name variables like male and female, religion, and position. So, these are the data sometimes called in other references called categorical. Commonly, we use this in our statement of the problem. What is the profile of the respondents as to sex, as to position, as length of service? Because we categorize the set of respondents to their attributes in terms of their categories, and then we count it. It's nominal. Sometimes we go or we tend to get ordinal data from the root word ordi, order, arranging the classified variables to determine the ranking. So it's the first, second, third, or last, or in the middle. So that is ordinal data. Okay? But commonly in quantitative research, most of the time, or the used type of data, because it can be subjected to parametric statistics that will be touched later, is the interval and ratio data. Why? Because primarily, most of the quantitative data that is subjected to research or studies in quantitative studies, majority of them are interval data. Some of them are ratio data, but treated as interval data. Why? Because interval data are attributes of variables where the distance from one another to the other has a meaning, like test scores, means. So later on, we will have the center, because descriptive statistics, or one statistic used in interval data, is the measure of central tendency. Body temperature, because you have different body, if there are set of respondents and then you will enter the mall, kahit 7 magkakasunod yan, there is a tendency of different body temperature ranging from, what's the normal body temperature? 34 point something to 37.2. So there is a range. So that is interval data. Now, then body temperature in the afternoon and midnight, blood pressure in the morning and afternoon. So mga kapatid, yung mga may high blood na minomonitor yung kanilang BP sa alas 8, tas sa madaling araw, alas 5, tas sa tanghali. That is interval data. So that if you will apply statistics there, you can predict. Based on this set of temperature, you can predict what will happen to the BP. That's why interval data is very important and always used in studies. Ratio data, attributes of variables that has a natural zero. Weight, height, number of complaints in the month, so possible zero number. Now, according to my professor, ratio data, a classic example of ratio data used in studies or quantitative studies are the data you got from your survey questionnaire. It's a ratio data, but if you subject it into statistical process, it is treated as interval data. Later on, we will deepen our understanding with that. So these are the 4 types of data that we will encounter when we conduct studies, that these 4 types of data will require different procedure or process or statistical tool to be used. Okay, next po. Now, why do we need to collect data? In research, data collection describes the tools and methods used to collect information and identify the variables being measured, because that will help us to answer our problems that we mentioned in chapter 1 or in our statement of the problem. Because it describes the method used to obtain the data. Remember, why is it majority of the people is having difficulty in research? Because number 1 principle is alignment. You will start with the background of the study, with the observations, baseline data that triggered you to enumerate some questions that you want to answer. And then from this set of questions, you will research, deepen your understanding through review of related literature. And then the next part is to design a tool, design a method, identify the enough sample that will help you to answer these questions. That's why it described the methods used to obtain the data. And note, if the data was pre-existing. Sometimes we conduct pre-existing data. Some professors call it hard data. Halimbawa, census. Okay? The number of population in a school. Enrollees. Hard data na yan eh. Diba? When you conduct a particular study from the total population, it's already identified. You will just identify a sample. And I believe sampling procedure was discussed from the other series. If you gathered it yourself, describe what type of instrument you use and why. Note, according to Dr. Ancho, note that no data set is perfect. Describe any limitations in methods of gathering data. That's why hindi nawawala sa parts natin ng research ay scope and limitations. Because either quantitative, qualitative, mixed method, there are weaknesses and strength for each. Ngayon, sabi nila, lumanay quantitative. No, it's the variables that we need to update. Are there existing variables that we can measure, we can evaluate, that is prevalent in our situation or context that will help us to answer a particular problem? So it's the suitability. Next. Because when we collect data, it requires appropriate instruments in quantitative research. So so we answered what is data collection. Now this time, what are the appropriate instruments? As I have mentioned, the first type of source of data that we can get are hard data, quantitative in nature. Baka kasi sabihin nyo, paano yung journal? Hard data yun, existing. So we will be focusing on quantitative data. So hard data, quantitative nature. Example, existing reports. So sa planning, nasa amin yung na-print na modules na ito yung budget na dapat ubusin. So it's existing already. So it's records, census, profiles. Ilan yung matanda yung teacher na magre-retire? For those who are administrators, they keep hard data that on this year, three teachers will retire. So what will be your program? So that's the essence of hard data. Accomplishment reports. A while ago, we have the SBM validation from the region, and then those who are in the private sector, they have accreditation. So PAASCU, AACUP sa state universities. So accomplishment reports are existing data that will be checked during accreditation. So hard data, sometimes we use hard data in our research. So mas madali siya kasi existing. But the problem is we need to have, sabi nga ni Sir Don Enrique Moreno kanina, netiquette. But we will require some etiquette or ethical procedures when we use hard data, because we need to ask the permission of proper authorities to use that particular data. Next, commonly, so we use tests sometimes, or most of the time. I limited my discussion to these three origins of data. So we have tests. So tests, personality test, just like John Holland's RIASEC. So it's a type of standardized personality test, because majority of you or yung mga nag-e-educ dyan, may assessment of student learning. So test can be diagnostic, achievement, formative, summative, but tests can be done, or rather can be used when we conduct research or action research, yung short quiz nga lang, or teacher-made test, pwede na eh, because it will help you to answer a specific problem. So the test can be personality, if that's your variable or you want to study about personality test, and it's standardized. Standardized test like Rorschach. Kaya lang, problema dito sa mga standardized test, binibili. But for those who are connected with different higher education institutions, they subscribe with different standardized tests that they can use and then conduct a research about it and use it as a baseline data. Can be achievement test. So yung wala nang NAT ngayon, no? But NAT is the base source for the mastery level of the Filipino learners for quite some time. Short quiz. Hirap sa mga teacher ngayon, wala na raw silang time mag-research, but actually, you just need to observe, analyze, and reflect. Observe. Tingnan niyo yung test scores na binigay nyo. Then analyze. Ano yung item na marami silang mali? Then reflect. Ano kaya pwede kong gawin? And then when you implement that, that is already a research. Teacher-made test. Sometimes, pag pinaglihi ka sa Jollibee, your research is this distance learning modality, walang valid and reliable test instrument that I can use that will really prove that my students have mastery. O di, Jollibee ka, gumawa ka ng sarili mong exam sa subject mong hinahandle. Applying different statistical procedures, you can create a standardized test. Because test is one tool that will help you to answer your problem. The third one is the classic questionnaire. Survey questionnaire, ano pa ba ibang tawag doon? But in the form of different forms. Iba, Likert, sabi niya, iba Likert, pero Likert turo sa amin. And then some is semantic differential. Yung iba naman tawag binary choice or Thurston, yung yes or no, yung dalawang option. But questionnaire, commonly used instrument in research, especially in social research or ano yung social research, if you will try to review other, ito yung descriptive, yung correlational, sometimes ex post facto. Okay, survey, yan, questionnaire yan. Now, commonly used instrument in research consists of list of questions or statements about a particular topic, variable sometimes, and less expensive and yields honest responses, guarantees confidentiality, and minimizes biases on questions phrasing mode. It's the palasak siya, or one of the common tool. Why? Because number one, it's easier to validate. Pag kasi test ang ginamit mo, may validation pa, may face validity, quantitative pa, i-item analysis pa. But for questionnaire, content validation or content experts minsan pumapayag na. Or sometimes, the most common is Cronbach Alpha. Okay? Yung Cronbach Alpha kasi, ginagamit lang siya kapag rating scale or questionnaire yung yung survey instrument mo or yung research instrument. So there are different validation scheme for test. There is a different way of validating questionnaire. Now, but when we conduct a study using questionnaire, number one is we need to keep in mind can be adopted or modified based on existing related or parallel studies. Sasabihin minsan nung advisor mo, ito na gamitin mo, adapted na yan. But sometimes you need to modify it that will suit to the context or to the background or to the situation of your learners. Yun yung advantage ng questionnaire kaysa sa standardized test. Halimbawa yung Rorschach, abroad yan eh. So foreign, yung ibang term, hindi maintindihan ng Pilipino. Okay? That's why I believe the Psychological Association of the Philippines made a psychological test meant for Filipinos because the context is different. Same with questionnaire. Sometimes, sasabihin ng teacher mo, ito na gamitin mo, standardized yan, proven yan, i-adapt mo lang. But it can be modified so that it will cater the need or the interest or the background of your respondents. How? Sir, how to modify it? That's why before you make an instrument, you need to read a lot of review or related literature. Because maybe the variables of Mario is more and you only need a lesser variable or indicative statement or questionnaire. So tatanggalin mo yan. Now, number one questionnaire can be researcher made, but must be validated by experts for content validity. Now, the classic is the loss ratio. So ano yung loss ratio? No? Loss ratio, in simple term, it's the proportion of number of experts that said yes, that your question is good, and then the number of person who said no. May simple computation lang yan. Pero halimbawa, for example, you have your survey questionnaire. Sasabihin mo, ma'am, sir, validate po nito. And then you have three validators. Sa question number 1, sabi ni validator 1, yes. Sabi ni question number 2, yes. Sabi ni validator number 3, no. So kukumputin lang yan. Kapag 80% pataas, that item or that question is valid. So yun yung loss ratio. Now, yung Cronbach alpha, holistic siya. Sasabihin ng isang teacher, sasabihin niya, you need to pilot it. So when you say pilot, practice test yon. So papasagutin mo yung questionnaire mo, maybe at least 20 respondents, and then you will subject it in Cronbach alpha na kapag 0.7 patas, it's acceptable. Your instrument is valid enough for you to proceed to the study. Okay? Kaya lang, sad to say, yung Cronbach alpha, hindi siya sa Excel. Okay? So, why? Because when we analyze, we're not math wizards all. For example, I'm an English major, but I can compute with the use of Excel or other apps. But for manual computation, let the math majors do it. Because when we analyze data, it requires us to describe the procedures for processing and analyzing the data. If appropriate, describe the specific instruments of analysis used to study each research objective, including mathematical techniques and the type of computer software used to manipulate data. Commonly, for quantitative, we have SPSS. I have SPSS, crack data, but sometimes when we present research findings, some validators or evaluators of the research will ask, especially in Region 3, in Research Congress in Region 3, the expert evaluators will ask you, how did you compute your data? And then you will say, SPSS. And then there is a follow-up question there. So what is the license number of your SPSS? Is that licensed or not? Hinuhuli ka lang nila because they will not accept your process data if it's not licensed SPSS. That's why alternative is, especially for students and those teachers who are handling research in senior high school, you can use Microsoft Excel, or if you have data or internet, you can download PSPP, which is free. But there are some limitations and advantages. But for basic research and common statistical tool that these apps, free apps, will be of great help. Recently, meron Max QDA. Mas mura siya eh. Sabi ng speaker namin, 3,000 lang is 1 year subscription. The advantage of Max QDA, you can use it either for quantitative and qualitative data. Kaya mabenta siya sa PNU. For SPSS, mahal kasi license niya. That's why, lucky for those who are teaching in colleges or universities, they have the license and their university really fund for that because it's one of the function of university, research and extension. So meron silang Turnitin, pag-scan ng kung ano yung mga kinapi-paste mo doon sa review of related literature mo or sa paper mo, which should be 20%, less than 20%, ibang university 15% pa. And then for data analysis of quantitative, SPSS nga. For qualitative data, meron silang in vivo. But for those who want to invest for themselves, why not? If you really love research, there is Max QDA, 3,000 lang daw yung subscription, mura pa. Kasi hindi pa siya ganun ka in demand. So you can use that both quali, quanti, and mixed researches design. So data analysis, next. Now, our focus is bivariate data. In one of the modules developed by UP Baguio. So when we talk about univariate, uni 1. So if our data is univariate, so single nature, so descriptive in nature, we can use frequency and percentages. So number and proportion of individuals or cases located in each category, just like what we had a while ago. We counted the frequency of how many are triangle, square, circle, and then present it into a graph. Next, central tendency, it's mean, median, and mode. It's hard. For a statistical lesson, manual computation yan. It's a series of lessons. But we need to link this statistical concept on how it is being applied in research. So we have mean, the average, in layman's term, and then median, the middlemost value or the middle number. If you will arrange it from highest to lowest, it's the middle number, that's the median. And then the mode, frequently occurring score or the most frequent score. Now, simple variations, we have range, difference between the highest value and lowest value, and standard deviation, difference of data from the mean. Now, why I included this in this talk? Because these are the common statistical tools that we use in research. Later on, I will show you how it's being applied. Now, in bivariate data, that's why we included what type of data is you are collecting, because it requires you to, that will tell you rather what particular statistical tool you will use. For example, nominal. You will use Kendall-Tau. Okay, in Kendall-Tau, but when you compute this, you will get the chi-square value. Okay, so one of my professors said during 1980s to early 90s, we always use categorical data or nominal data because it can be done manually. So it's easy. So we use Kendall-Tau through the chi-square value. But with the absence of technology, interval data and ratio data will give you the more specific degree of relationship between the independent variables. That's why there is an upgrade. That's why there is Pearson R, and then we have t-test. That's why commonly those who are taking up their master's degree, they are always using Pearson R or t-test in their statistical tool. Why? Because this set of parametric statistics will really tell you to reject or accept the null hypothesis. Bakit? Pag kinumpit nyo kasi ang Kendall-Tau, ano lalabas dyan? Asymptote value, or basta may asympt minsan. Meaning to say, the computation is not exact. There is a certain range, or the value is the degree of relationship or difference between the value between the independent and dependent variable is not exact. Unlike in Pearson R, if you will use Pearson R and t-test, if you will compute that, later on I will show you, it will show you the exact probability value. And the common rule is it should be 95%. To have a conclusive findings to reject or accept the null hypothesis, we need to have 95%, or the value of Pearson R, or the t value, should be at the 0.05 degrees of probability, or 0.05 level. Meaning to say 5%, only 5% has the tendency that your findings will be not wrong, but not acceptable. So later on, next please. So let's practice. Let's try. So put on the chat pane what particular, or what do you think the statistical tool appropriate to be used on the following research questions. For example, what is the demographic profile of teachers respondents as to position, educational qualification, civil status, and age? So is it percentage, mean, range, standard deviation, Pearson R, t-test? Go. Type it on our chat pane. Very good. Sir James Andrew, frequency and percentage. Very good. So statistical to be used, percentage. Thank you very much for your participation. Another, because it's a nominal data, categorical variable siya. What is the level of proficiency of teacher applicants during the English proficiency test? What particular statistical tool you can use to answer or to process this research question? Go. Type it on our chat pane. Go. Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ma'am Lani, Ma'am Mary Joy. It's mean. Thank you. Next. Standard deviation optional. Okay. Sir, bakit optional? It depends upon the researcher actually. Mean is the required, but if you want to show the distances of the scores, you can include standard deviation. Okay? Sir, bakit kailangan standard deviation? Kasi kapag mataas yung standard deviation, ibig sabihin nun, iba-iba talaga. Magkakalayo yung scores. Kung sa survey naman, pag mataas yung standard deviation o lumalapit na yung value ng standard deviation sa mean, ibig sabihin nun, watak-watak o layo-layo yung perception ng bawat respondents. Next. Thank you for your participation. What is the perceived level of perception of respondents with regards to their content, knowledge, and pedagogy? So it seems like you conduct a survey and then you gave it to your respondents, their level of perception in terms of content, knowledge, and pedagogy. What particular statistical tool you can use? Type it on our chat pane. Go ahead po. Thank you very much, Sir James Andrew. The first most active, it's mean. Evelyn Waperi, chi-square. Can be po. Okay, can be po. If, sige po, next, continue the slide. Okay. Sorry. Thank you very much, ma'am. It can be also the chi-square, Ma'am Evelyn. If your initial data, you will categorize the level of perception into high, middle, and low. But if you will stay it as it is, you can use mean po. Okay, kaya nakalagay dyan frequency and percentage. Thank you very much, Sir Richard Katain. So weighted mean lang po. Pwede po. It depends upon the lens of the researcher, what will be your objective. Kasi research question lang naman siya. Thank you very much for your participation. So standard deviation. Thank you. Now, this is an inferential question that requires inferential statistics. Is there a significant difference in the performance of private educational institutions and government educational institutions? Sir Richard, napakabilis t-test. Sir Mervin Florendo Gonya, thank you very much. So, limited lang tayo no, sa bivariate analysis. So, ilang group siya? So, private and then government education. So, 2 bivariate. So, t-test. But kapag yan lumagpas, lagay mo na yung Catholic, sectarian, accredited, marami ng classification, you can use ANOVA. Thank you very much, Sir Richard Katain. But ANOVA is just a sharing because we focus on bivariate analysis. Thank you, sir. Next po. Is there a significant relationship between teachers' ICT knowledge and performance? So, chi-square, James Andrew Oyo, Pearson R. Okay. Okay, same sharing, Sir James. Pwede siyang i-chi-square. If you will categorize your respondents on the level of ICT knowledge, kung high, very low, high, low, or medium, and then related to performance. Okay? But that is non-parametric. But if you want to have an exact value of relationship, Sir Aldrich Licaros, Sir Marvin Garcia, it is Pearson R. Ma'am Evelyn mentioned t-test. Okay? The most appropriate, Ma'am Evelyn, is Pearson R. But later on, we will use t-test to prove the degree of relationship with Pearson R. Okay po, Ma'am Evelyn? Sige, next po. Pearson product moment correlation or Pearson R. Now, how to present a data? It can be on graphs or tables. Shows relations, comparisons, and distributions in a set of data, like absolute values, percentages, or index. So univariate nominal data, i-graph mo siya. But doon sa mga nagpa-publish ng journal, most of the time, yung profile variables, it's in text. In text interpretation na siya, wala na siyang graph. Only the tabular or the inferential values are included. Pero doon sa mga nagre-research, na tinuturo pa rin yung profile variables, yeah, you can use graph. Or you can use table. Sir, pwede bang i-table itong mga sex, age, pwede. Based on what I have learned, kapag naka-graph siya, isa-isa. Isang graph for sex, isang graph for position, isang graph for year of enrollment. But if you will use a table to present your univariate data, isang table lang siya. Pagkakasya mo siya sa isang table, arranged logically. So yun yung pagkakaiba niya if you will present this type of data into tabular form. Now, tables provide exact values and illustrate results efficiently as they enable the researchers to present a large amount of data in a small amount of space. Lalo na sa mga nagpapublish, ang nipis lang yung table na yan. But check lang natin kung significant. Boom! Ang haba na ng interpretation. Because what? Remember, tables can be used in a single category is to be presented in different points. Exact value like mean and frequencies and data set that contains few numbers. Okay, so less space but more intellectual interpretation. So we can choose graphs or tables. So next po. Now, how to present data? This is a sample. So you can that's a sample of a graph and then a table. So you can have frequency or percentage. Yung iba both. May mga colleges na both pinipresent in table and graph. So hindi ko nakokontrahin yan. It depends upon the research agenda and format of the university. We need to respect that. But you can have the option. So tables or graph. Yung ibang mga nagtitesis o nagre-research, para medyo may kulay konti, ginagraph nila yung profile variables or yung mga nominal data nila. Tulad ng attendance. So yan. Para may kulay konti. But for inferential stat, table lagi yun. Okay, next. So that's a sample of table. Yan. Ako naman na nag-compute yan kaya hindi ko na pinaalam. So classroom attendance. So this is a sample of Pearson R table. So dapat 0.05, no? So 0.01. So 99% something. Na there is a strong relationship between classroom attendance and counseling services. Base dyan. And then academic performance and counseling services. So very strong positive correlation. So that's a sample table on how to present Pearson R value. Significant at 0.05 level, two-tailed. So later on, we will discover what's the difference between one-tailed and two-tailed. Next po. Okay, why do we need to how to interpret quantitative data? Number one, attempts to explain phenomena by collecting and analyzing numerical data. That's why it's quantitative, numbers. But later on, we'll try to discover and appreciate beyond the numbers, as what our webinar series theme tells us. Tells you if there is a difference. So it's a question, is there a significant difference? T-test nga gagamitin. Data collected are always numerical and analyzed using statistical methods. Later on, we will make our life easier because we need to capacitate ourselves to how to perform these things. Variables are controlled as much as possible so we can eliminate interference and measure the effect of any change. Kaya nga pag quantitative ang design mo, tinitingnan yan ng teacher mo eh. Naka-align ba yan sa statement of the problem? Unlike in qualitative, you can revise in the middle depending upon the flow of your RRL and then depending upon the initial results of your qualitative data you gathered from your respondents, so you can revise in the middle. But for quantitative, talagang ito, this is what you said, this is what you're going to do, apply, and then this is what you're going to measure. So it's a series. Randomization to reduce subjective bias, especially in experimental research. Your control and experimental group should be similar. The difference will be the treatment. To really prove that there's no bias and your treatment, your innovation, or your strategy you implemented is really effective. Later on, we will show you how to reduce these biases. If there are no numbers involved, it's not quantitative. Tama naman, kaya nga quanti, bibilangin. Sometimes, some types of research lend themselves better to quantitative approaches than others. So, yun na. Nauna kasi i-introduce to. Germanic na tawag ng mga matatandang prof sa quantitative research. Next. Analysis of data. How do we analyze? Shucks, paano to? Number 2. We start with the highest numerical value. Why? Because it will give us the lead or guidance how to conclude, how to recommend on the latter part of our study. And then lowest numerical value because it will tell us what are the things to be improved that can be included in our recommendation. Common numerical value, what is the norm or normal? And then final numerical value later on, that's you can see it in grand mean or weighted mean, weighted average, iba-ibang term, depende sa ginagamit ng statistician. But in our school, we commonly use grand mean. But in other universities, general weighted average. Kapag grades, yung iba naman, weighted mean. So, depends. Next. And then, later on, I will, if there's still time, yun, composite mean. So, Ma'am Angeline mentioned, that's another term, composite mean, yung pinakadulo. Later on, we will show you some samples. How to analyze and interpret data? Number 1, data collected are compared and contrasted. So, you tell, and then what are their similarities and their differences? That's why in the previous slide, what's that? We mentioned that you need to get the highest, the lowest, so that you can compare and contrast. The researcher explains the internal validity or causes or factors of results. You can now interpret. So interpret, you can now tell what are the reasons because you will use inferential statistics. Okay? Level 3, the researcher explains the external validity to external conditions. So the relationships, the applicability, and then the most important, laging hinahanap ng mga panel, the researcher should relate or connect the interpretation with existing theory or relevant reviewed literature. That's why your interpretation, you should go back to your review of related literature. Sasabihin nyo, this supports, or likewise, Ancheta 2020 supports the assertion that there is a significant relationship between blah, blah, blah. Or Buenaventura 2013 proved that there is a significant difference on these variables, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So that's the highest level for interpreting data. Okay? Next. Okay, so this will be the last part of my session. So sharing, if you can follow, using Microsoft Excel, because majority of us doesn't have SPSS and then PSPP, the free. Okay, but you can use Excel. So let's have a short demonstration. So just like what we had. So for percentage, for example, in this webinar, we have 23 males and then we have 40 females. So for example, and then if you want to have graph, alam naman natin yan, insert, then you choose a particular design, then you can say that 37% of the attendees for day 3 webinar are males. 37% or 23 are males. And then the remaining 63% or 40 participants are female. So that's your interpretation. Or if you want it to have tables, so you can use write 23 and then 40. So simple application lang. Then the total will be auto sum. So 63, so equals divided by 63 times 100. So basic lang yan. So 36.50. So this will be your table that you can include in your chapter 4, it's chapter 4, or in your discussion of findings. So that is for nominal or for percentage. Now, for mean, for example, you have used, sorry, nag-practice ako gabi, no? For example, you have used a survey questionnaire. Your research question is there a significant relationship between teachers' work commitment and job satisfaction? Okay? And then you have 30 respondents. And then for your variable work commitment, you have 5 questionnaires. And then these are the respondents. Likert kasi siya. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the responses of the 30 respondents. Okay? Now this is an interval. It will be treated as interval data. So you will use mean. So average, then drag nyo lang. Sa mga estudyante, useful to kasi. So this is your average per item. Kaya lang, hindi naman yung ilalagay nyo dun sa indicative statement. Okay? Dun sa pinaka-summary table na nilalagay sa chapter 4, presentation and analysis of data. So you go back to, you get the average of mean, or the mean of question number 1 in work commitment. So i-average mo rin yan. Sorry. Kamali akong drag. So get the average. So ito yan. Ganun din yung sa job satisfaction. So ayan na. Itong dulo na to, ito yung grand mean mo o composite mean. Na ilalagay mo dito sa table. So for example, ang kunin muna natin yung work commitment. So the grand mean, dito tayo mag-focus. So 4.13. So question number 1 in work commitment is 4.13. So lalagay mo dyan 4.13. Tapos sabi ang tanong mo doon ay work commitment, ang kunwari lang, example lang tanong mo doon, I report always on time. So yun yung tanong mo doon. 4.13 yung mean mo. And then, itong dilaw na to, ito yung grand mean mo. So 4.23. So lagay mo lang dito, 4.23. So yun. for mean. So yan yung pagpe-present mo. So and so forth. Kung 5 kasi yung tanong mo. So yung sunod ay 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.41 hanggang grand mean na 4.22. Syempre habang dumadami variables, dadami yung summary table niya. So for example, yung job satisfaction, ang mean niya for indicator number 1 is 3.73. Ang grand mean niya ay 4.21. Okay? So yun ilalagay nyo dito sa table nyo. Ngayon, option daw yung standard deviation. So pwede rin niya sa Excel yung standard deviation. So equals, then AutoSum, more functions, click nyo lang tong stdev. Okay? Pero ang pinakahuli niya ay 32. So 33 nandito, gawin niya 32. So 0.98. So yan. So lagay niyo yung stdev niya 0.98. So lagay niyo dito sa summary table niyo 0.98. Ngayon yung verbal interpretation, depende yun dun sa instrument nyo no, na ginamit. So halimbawa ay 4.13 ay agree lang. So depende yan sa range. Kasi lalagay nyo rin yun dito sa ibaba yung 4.96 ay 4.56 to 4.70 yun yung range. So depende kasi yan sa instrument na ginamit nyo yung ilalagay dito sa verbal interpretation. For example, doon sa ginawa natin kanina na na dito sa triangle square, bawa, depende yon doon sa range na ginamit doon sa instrument. Okay? So, pero kadalasan yung 4.6 patas, palapit sa 5, yun na yung very strong agree, depende. Okay? So this is for mean and standard deviation. Now, Pearson R, pwede rin. Kaya lang may limitation. But we will use t-test. Sabi ni Ma'am kanina, Waperi ba yun, Ma'am? Sorry, pero we can use t-test. So, for example, is there a significant relationship between work commitment and job satisfaction of teachers? Sample lang yun ha. Ito yung mean nila. Ito yung mean kanina. Na-compute natin. Ito yung mean. 4.44. So, ito siya. Is there a significant relationship? So, Pearson R tayo. Yung mga walang apps, pwedeng Excel. So, dali lang nakaharang yan. Hindi ko makita. So, click data. So, click data and then data analysis. And then, hanapin nyo yung correlation. Yun, yung correlation. So, okay. Iha-highlight nyo lang tong 4.4 hanggang dun sa 3, dulo nung work commitment. Yun, lumabas na. 0.536206. So, positive moderate correlation yan. Nasa gitna 0.53, 0.54. There is positive, moderate positive correlation. Sorry. So, yun yun. But hindi siya conclusive, di ba? Kasi kapag nilalagay nyo sa research, may 0.05, di ba? Kaya lang hindi kasi yung nakikita sa Excel. Yun yung limitation ni Excel. Kaya pwede kayong gumamit ng PSPP na mura. Pero kung Excel lang meron kayo, kasi mabigat na yung PSPP, pag in-install pa dun sa computer, you can use t-test po. Tama si Ma'am Waperi ba yun? You can use t-test. So, same procedure. So, for example, work commitment, ano yung R value niya? 0.04. So, lagyan nyo dito, 0.054. Kaya lang, yung template natin sa table, may significance. So, hindi natin minsan malagay yon. Pero, pwede natin gawin yan. So, interpretation is positive, moderate correlation. We cannot do that in Excel, so use t-test. Kasi kabaliktaran niya yung Pearson R. So, balik data analysis, hanapin natin yung t-test paired to sample for means. To sample for means. Okay. Okay po. Okay, variable 1. Then, variable range number 2, yung job satisfaction. And then, okay. Yun na. Ito na yung t-test. Okay, Pearson correlation niya, same 5.536 or 0.54. Ngayon, tingnan niyo yung t-stat. 0.25. Tingnan niyo yung critical. 1.69 sa one tail. Tingnan niyo yung critical sa two tail, 2 point. mababa si T-stat. Ibig sabihin, there's no significant difference. Kaya merong relationship. So, ganon. Kasi sa Excel, pinapakita niya yung probability value ni t-test pero wala sa Pearson R. So, gamitin mo yung t-test. So, sa T-stat, sabi niya 0.25. Eh, mababa siya. Less than siya sa 1.69. Less than din siya sa T-critical na two-tail na 2.04. Ibig sabihin, there's no significant difference. There is a relationship between job satisfaction and work commitment. Pero, similar process kapag ikaw naman ay what you call this, T-test in experimental. So, kapag Excel lang ang ginamit mo, maglagdag ka lang dito ng T-value. Kaya sabi ni Ma'am Waperi kanina, lagay mo T-value. Tapos yung T-critical, idagdag mo yun. Pag yun, mababa kasi T-value, mas mataas yung T-critical, there's no significant difference. Pasok si R value mo na 0.054, there is a significant relationship. So, yun yung pag-Excel. Pero pag PSPP, kaya niya, parang SPSS din siya. Next, how about if your design is experimental? So, may control and experimental group. We said that kailangan magkamukha si control at experimental group. Ang pinagkaiba lang nila ay treatment or yung innovation or yung strategy na ginamit mo. How can we do that? We can use T-test. Now, let's apply T-test first on our pre-test. Kadalasan ng tanong sa is there a significant difference between the post-test of experimental and control? Bakit? Kasi tapos na yung treatment. Ngayon, saan mo gagamitin yung pre-test? To justify that the experimental and control group are similar. So, paano yan? So, data analysis again. And then, T-test paired to sample for means. Kaya lang baliktad siya. Ang gawin yung variable 1 ay yung recent. So, pre-test ni experimental. Sorry, baliktad. So, variable 1, range 1. Pre-test ni experimental. And then, pre-test ni control. Then okay. Lalabas na siya. Ito yung result. Okay. Ano yung Pearson correlation niya? 0.47. Ang T-stat niya negative. Mababa pa siya dun sa critical one-tail sa critical two-tail. Ayan, no? Ibig sabihin, magkamukha. There's no significant difference on your experimental and control group. So magkamukha pa sila on your onset of your study. So pwede silang gamiting experimentation to conduct experimentation rather. Now, for example, gumamit ka ng innovative material mo. Yan. In-apply mo na lahat ng strategies mo sa dun sa experimental group. Sila lang yung they will receive a treatment. So, you can now conduct post-test. So, nag-post-test sila, ito yung score nila. Is there a significant difference? Balik tayo sa data analysis. T-test paired to sample for means. Copyin nyo itong post-test ni experimental. Copyin nyo itong post-test ni control. Then, okay. Ang lumabas sa tawas, okay. T-stat or T-value, 3.15. Critical one-tail, 1.69. So, mas mataas na siya. And then, critical two-tail, 2 point, mas mataas pa rin yung T-stat. Meaning to say, there is a significant difference after using your innovation, your strategy, or your material. There is a significant difference in terms of the scores of the experimental group compared to the control group. Why? The 3.15 T-value tells you that there's significant difference. Both one-tail or two-tail. Sir, bakit pa kasi may one-tail, two-tail? Sabi ng prof ko, laging two-tailed naman. Lagi, preferred nila two-tailed. Bakit two-tailed? Kasi remember, the curve, in the normal curve, Kapag two-tailed, significant ng two-tailed, those above the mean, yung mga estudyante or respondents who scored above the mean and below the mean improved. May nagbago sa kanila. Kapag one-tailed lang, significant yung t-value. Halimbawa, itong t-value nyo, mas mataas lang siya sa critical one-tail. Ang ibig sabihin, the significant difference occurred on those respondents or students who scored above the mean. Kasi dito lang siya, dito yung nag-change, nag-significant difference. But pag two-tailed, kasama yung nasa laylayan o nandun sa dulo. So that is for Pearson R and t-test. Now, much easier kapag PSPP. Yes. Later on na lang po. Ayan po. Ayan po, nag-share na si Dr. Eddiebal live. Okay? And then for PSPP, mas madali. Wait lang ha. But we can use this PSPP, for example, okay, let me share again, sorry. So this is PSPP. Madali lang siyang i-download kasi nga libre siya. So for example, yung work commitment natin. And then job satisfaction. So data view tayo, punta tayo data view. Parang siyang SPSS din. So copy lang natin to. Ito yung work commitment. So paste lang natin dito work commitment. Ay, ma-paste. So copy work commitment. Tayo maka. Wait lang ha. Sige, job satisfaction nga muna. Copy job satisfaction. Yun na. Then for work commitment, yan. So for example, click analyze, bivariate correlation. Enter nyo lang doon. Tapos okay, lalabas na yung result. Parehas lang ng result natin, no? 0.536. Pero ang kaibahan niya, shortcut nga kasi pinakita niyo yung exact level of probability na 0.002 or 98% yung sure ng findings niya. That there is a significant relationship between work commitment and job satisfaction. Ay, hindi nakikita sa screen? Sorry. Ito yung result niya. Doon sa relationship. So yan o. Same, doon sa Excel computation natin. Pero nakita dito, shortcut siya, significant two-tailed agad sinabi niya. 0.002 or 98%. Sure yung conclusivity ng findings between the relationship between work commitment and job satisfaction. So yun yung kagandahan nung mas madaling tingnan at mas madaling isalpak doon sa table natin. Last is t-test. So lagay lang natin dito, halimbawa, post-test. Sorry. Okay, balik tayo dito sa PSPP. So, post-test, kita na, experimental. Then, post-test, control. So, balik tayo data view. Kita? Check lang natin. Ito yung post-test ni experimental. Okay. Tayong lumabas ng post. Okay. Ayan, post test ni control. Copy-paste lang rin natin. Naglolo ko yung pag-copy-paste. Yan. Tapos analyze, compare means. Paired sample t-test. So variable 1 nyo yung experimental, post-control, okay na. So lalabas na yon. Ang lumabas sa result ay yun. Ito yung paired sample. So 3.16, 0.004. So significant. Ibig sabihin kasi 0.05 below siya, 0.05, 0.04, 0.03, 0.02, 0.01, 0.00. Significant difference siya. So there is significant difference. At same result din doon sa ating Excel computation. The difference is yung exact level of probability na pakita doon. Then, how to present it? So this is the tabular format for t-test. Recommended lang naman, but you can. So write the mean for control. So ano yung mean ng control natin? 14 and 12.63. So 12.63 then 14. 12.63 then 14. So mean difference. Ba't lalagay mean difference? The explanation is, para in-interpret mo, this part is the descriptive level. Kasi mean and mean difference lang siya. And this part, yung 3.16, which is significant to 0.04 level of probability, this is your inferential level. So bakit sir may inferential level? This will tell you to reject your hypothesis that there is a significant difference on the post-test scores of the experimental and control group after utilizing a certain strategy or innovation that you implemented during your implementation. And with that, maraming salamat po sa pakikinig. Later on, in the PowerPoint, there is my references. And maraming salamat po. With your participation, then answers with the different activities, and through following until the end of my session. Maraming salamat po.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Donn, Uriel, Buenaventura, once again for a very insightful and informative, actually very engaging lecture tonight. And in the workflow, we will proceed with the photo opportunity. But for the meantime, habang fresh pa, siguro sa Q&A na tayo mag-proceed muna. Para habang ini-internalize natin, we can ask questions na din and then followed by the photo opportunity na lang. Kumbaga, i-tweak lang natin yung workflow ng content. So you may use the chat box of this room if you have questions, or you may raise your hand if you want to ask Sir Dr. Donn with
Sir
his
Donn na lang
lecture.
po.
Para ma-differentiate lang, sir.
Sige, oo nga pala.
On the way pa lang ako, Doc, eh. So,
Andun na rin.
karamihan sa comments natin, sir, are appreciation, compliments. Salamat po sa knowledge, Dr. Buenaventura. Very helpful, Doc. Thank you for sharing your expertise. Ang galing. All right. Thank you so much po, sir, for sharing the knowledge po. Congrats po, sir. I think, sir, walang question because it's very informative. Actually, in research, especially in the statistics part, no, kapag ina-apply natin siya, doon natin siya mas lalong na-appreciate. No? And in the lecture, ganun yung ginawa ni Dr. Donn. So talagang very engaging. Thank you so much for a very informative lecture.
May tanong si Sir Aldrich po.
Tanong ko lang, Doc Donn, kung meron ba one-way sample t-test sa Excel po?
Para po yan sa pre-experimental design. Sir, check ko lang po kasi mostly sa quasi po tsaka true experimental. Pero check ko po, alam ko meron din, sir eh. Ba't nawala? Sir Donn, saglit lang. I-share ko lang yung screen ko, no?
Sure, sir.
So, nakalimutan ko sabihin na 2010 Excel pala dapat yung kailangan nyo para dun sa So, nawala siya, no? File, paano yun malagay yung data analysis, no? File, options, mabilis lang po, alas 8 na eh. Click nyo itong add-ins. Okay? Hanapin nyo po itong, ayan, click nyo po itong analysis tool pack. Tapos po, Excel add-ins, go. Ayan po, lalabas yan. Click nyo analysis tool pack, okay. Lalabas na po yun. So, data. Ba't nawala sa akin? Restart ko lang po yung Excel ko. Nawala yung So, kung yung Excel. Yun yung para may palabas. Sa one, okay, data. Data analysis. Tingnan natin doon sa t-test, no? Sir, wala. Wala po. Pero merong one-way F-test po rito eh. Sa ano ba po yung dito? Sa single factor, Sir Ulrich. Wala po sa t-test, pero sa ano ba po yung single factor? Pwede, kaya lang multiple groups po yun, hindi po dalawang groups ang magagamit. Yun po, sir. So wala po. Thank you, Sir Ulrich.
All right. So I think yun na yung first and last question natin, Doc. Maybe we can proceed now with the photo opportunity. May I ask the participants to open your camera for a quick photo opportunity. Alam kong gutom na tayong lahat, so let's make it very quick na lang po. Let me check. Okay, sige. 2-page po ito, so smile na lang po tayo for two screenshots. Okay. Pasensya na po, ang lakas ng kidlat. I don't know if narinig siya. And for page 2, smile pa rin po tayo. All right. So Allow me to share my screen again. Now we would like to thank Dr. Donn once again for the expertise and knowledge that he shared tonight. And we would like to give you this certificate of recognition. Presents this certificate of recognition to Dr. Donn Uriel D. Buenaventura, Research Consultant at Core Educational Research Center, for his invaluable time and expertise as a research speaker in the National Webinar on Quantitative Research of EdCore Educational Research Center, held on August 4 and 8 and September 1, 2021, and conducted under the Advocacy Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone, with advisory from the Department of Education. Signed by Dr. Bernadette L. Lijarde, LPT, MAGC, PhD, the overall project coordinator, and Dr. Richard D. Sanchez, LPT, PhD, our head research consultant. Again, thank you so much, and magandang gabi po, Doc. And for our announcements, application is now open for the International Awards for Outstanding Educators and Researchers. To access the guidelines, qualifications, criteria, and other pertinent documents, please follow the link presented on your screen. To join Research Educational Research Center as a research consultant, the link to follow are also presented. To request for certificate and other pertinent documents, you may visit the link presented on the screen as well. And for more information and updates, kindly follow and subscribe to our social media page in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and you may contact us via our email account. We also have our EdCourse official t-shirt and polo shirts being sold by Blueprint Shop, owned by Dr. Mark Joseph V. Sangi. For orders and inquiries, you may contact the contact information presented on the screen. Note that this is not owned and managed by EdCore, but of Blueprint Shop. We are only a beneficiary of certain percentage of the sales. All right, so to formally close the event or the program, may I turn now the virtual floor to Dr. James Andrew D. Oyo, Faculty and HM Program Head of STI West Negros University. Good evening,
Hi,
Doc.
good evening, everyone. Hi, good evening, Donn, as well as to our speaker for tonight. So in behalf of EdCore, we would like to thank our resource speaker for tonight, Dr. Donn Uriel Buenaventura, for the learning and insights that you shared with us. It was a very informative night for all of us. To all participants who spent their time despite of the busy schedule, thank you so much for attending our webinar. God bless and get safe, everyone. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you po, and thank you to all our participants. May I remind lang po yung ating mag-oath taking for tonight. Kindly stay lang po.